Hello, this is CGMGZN from Russia, and please welcome. This is our very big guest, very big person in computer graphics and also animation in After Effects, creator of a lot of great and open source products for animation like Duik and co-founder of Rainbox company. Duduf.
Yeah. Yeah, Duduf is okay. In
Duduf
French, we
is
say
okay.
Duduf.
Duduf, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, hello. And the first question, I think you can tell us about yourself and what you're doing for life. What is your purpose to be in computer graphics, and how did you get here?
Yeah. So, yeah, I've been working in computer graphics for 10 years now, plus 4 years of study at Superfocom in France.
Mm-hmm.
And now my work is it's quite varied. I do a lot of things. Mainly, I'm an animator and a director. I direct some short movies, and I animate on movies from friends by friends. I don't know much motion design or advertising. It's mainly fiction what I work on, and this is what I wanted to do for a long time. So now I can do it thanks to my company Rainbox.
Mm-hmm.
And besides this, I have also a lot of teaching in schools. I began to teach maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know. Some schools asked me to come to teach animation. This was thanks to Duik. I was known in other schools thanks to Duik. And so I began to teach, not a lot, but it's about maybe 30% of my time of teaching in schools.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a very little part of development, actually. I don't develop much. There's Duik, of course, but my main work is still animation.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And you work as a motion designer at your company, Rainbox.
Yeah, my company is Rainbox. It's a cooperative, and yeah, we are both motion design and a production company of fiction and short movies, music videos, and we're even working on a feature film right now. We don't know if it will be produced if we're going to finish it, because we are searching for money to do it. We need about 1 million euros. So if someone has 1 million euros, we can do our feature film. But yeah, we're trying to do all kinds of movies, all durations, but mainly fiction. We don't want to do advertising. And for now, it's been working. It's been 2 years since we founded the company. And in 2 years, we did only fiction. So we try to keep working only on fiction.
This is great. How many employers in Rainbox?
So yeah, we founded the company. Only we were 2 when we founded it. My friend, who was a producer, he don't animate at all. He knows nothing about what I'm doing. He's just a producer, and I'm in charge of the artistic and technical direction. That was 2 years ago. Now we are 4 full-time at the company. And there are also 2 interns right now, 2 students who are working with us on some movies for a few months. And this changes depending on the projects. We can be as much as 8. I think the most people we had was 8 right here in the new studio. I'm here. It's been 2 months in this room.
Is this in Paris or
No, not at all. No, we don't like Paris. We don't like big cities. So we are in a very small town in the north of France. We're not far from bigger cities with trains and everything. We're not far from Brussels in Belgium. We're not far from London, because we need to be accessible. But we don't like big cities, so we're in the smallest town.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
like a small home. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a small list of questions that our subscribers want to ask you, and of course, a lot of them about Duik.
Yeah.
We call it in Russia Duik. So, is it right?
Yeah, Duik is right. I've discovered recently that I didn't know it was an existing word, and in Dutch, it's said Duik, and Duik means how you diving. You know, it's diving in Dutch. So, but I didn't knew it when I created Duik, and I called it Duik.
It's and this word consists of two or three parts, and do you and like Duduf, yes,
yeah,
and ik is ik.
Yeah, inverse kinematics.
Yes. So, and if I'll ask about Duik, what do you do before you wrote the first version of Duik? So you the question about did you work a lot about in animation and rigging and some character stuff, or what?
Yeah, I was at that time. It was 10 years ago. It will be 10 years in December, so this is the 10-year anniversary of Duik.
Oh, congratulations!
And yeah, when I worked the first version, I was a 3D animator and a 3D rigger, actually. And the story is that I had to animate some characters in After Effects. In the company I was working at that time, we had a small animations to do in After Effects. But as a 3D rigger and animator, going to After Effects and not having IKs, not having any rigging at all, it was a pain. So we had time to think about this, and it was kind of a joke, actually. It's a friend of mine who said, can you write IKs for After Effects? Because I knew how expressions worked, and I was in the team. I was the one who knew the best how to write expressions, but I didn't know how to develop. Actually, I was not a coder at all, and I have just a few notions. So a friend told me, "Can you write IKs?" And I said, "Yeah, I can try." And I tried. It took a lot of time. It was actually what was difficult was the mathematics behind the IKs, and yeah, it was hard. But this was the story behind the first version, and yeah, well, the first time it worked, we were 3 or 4 of us at After Effects on the same computer, were looking at this, and the first time I moved an IK, we were like, "Wow, it works!" We were crazy, and this was the first version of Duik, and there was only one button which created IKs. It did nothing else.
It think that this was this script was like a revolution in After Effects rigging, because now I can't imagine that I didn't have IK in After Effects. After Duik, yes. And,
when I created it, there were already IKs, which I use actually. When I finally managed to write my own expressions for inverse kinematics, it was the time I discovered, how was it called, this website? A website by a guy named Dan Eberts. Who had Expression Lab or something like this. I don't remember the name of the website. Anyway, on this website, there was expressions for IKs, so it existed before Duik. And I used this expression actually in the first versions of Duik. I contacted Dan, and he agreed we could use these expressions in Duik because they worked better than mine. So I managed to do it, but I didn't use actually my expressions, and I picked the one from Dan. So it was not really a revolution at that time. I think what was the revolution was a few versions later. It was the 5th version of Duik, I don't know, maybe 2 years later, when it was a script which was a bit more advanced with other features. And it was the first version which was really a rigging tool with other tools, not only IKs. And this was a revolution. And what brings Duik? Duik brought something, it brought character rigging in After Effects. Before Duik, people didn't know, users of After Effects didn't even know rigging existed in 3D, or there were motion designers, but they never thought that they could rig characters to animate them. And I think this was the revolution of Duik. It's more like making something which existed well known in the community.
Mm-hmm. And all of this stuff is free and open source. And in our community, we call Duik, it's like killer of the paid scripts, because every new version got a lot of features that scripts from scripts.com costs a lot of money for design.
I love this time. It makes me laugh. I have friends who call Duik stuff like that, killer of all scripts, of all paid scripts. It's interesting. Actually, I'm in contact with a lot of script developers who sell their scripts on AE Scripts. It's a small community of developers. I'm one of the oldest. I'm not old myself, but I was one of the first to develop advanced scripts to After Effects with Lloyd Alvarez, the guy who created AEscripts.com, who's a very nice guy. I've chatted with him a lot. And we talked about these paid scripts, my open source scripts, and how to do this. They are not angry at me at all. We have very good contacts and we talk a lot. They're all nice guys. The thing is, what they do is quite different than me. As I said, development is maybe 10 or 20% of my work at most. When I'm the latest version of Duik, I worked maybe 4 months full-time on Duik, on the latest version of Duik. It was 4 months in 2 years. So that means 2 months per year average. So it's not much. And so giving it and having only donations and stuff like that is enough. I can do this. The thing is that some developers on AE Scripts do development work full-time. Some of them work full-time on their scripts and our stuff. So I perfectly understand they do sell their scripts. I don't agree. I think they couldn't do it without selling them. That's true. But I understand them and they do understand what I'm doing too. So we chat about this and there's no angry, it's okay, it works well.
And for this 2 months, is it continuous 2 months, or it's like all of your time in a year will be 2 months?
So it depends.
Yes.
Yeah, it depends on the version and what I'm working on exactly. For example, with this version, the current version, Duik Basel, I worked 4 months at once just after the crowdfunding campaign, or a few months after. I worked for 4 months full-time on it, nearly full-time. And this is it. This was my work. And then when the version is released, I continue to work on it very regularly. It's maybe about 1 day per week. It depends on what I have to do because I always have bug fixes, maintenance to do, and stuff to fix, to adjust, depending on user feedback. And sometimes I have some bigger updates which take me a little more time. So it can vary a lot in the year. And it also depends on my other projects, on the films I'm working on and other development, because there are other tools I'm working on too. So it depends a lot of what I'm doing and how I can organize my time. So yeah, when there are big versions and crowdfunding campaigns, I work full-time on it with the funds from the crowdfunding. And the rest of the time it varies a lot, actually.
You said about other products. You mean the products like other products from Rainbox, or like not only Duik, but other scripts for After Effects, or you tell about some kind of direction and animation?
Both, actually both. There are other scripts and other tools I'm developing. It takes a lot of time, and again, I want them to be free, so I can't work full-time on them because I need to earn my life. So there are the donations. So I have more time than before because I have my Patreon page, and I have some regular income, so I can work more on development than before. And that's what allows me to work on other tools. I have, for example, I have other tools for After Effects I'm working on. There is my script for grouping layers. I'm working on a big update on this one. I have some other scripts for making proxies and small stuff like that. And I have also begun to develop whole applications outside of After Effects. I'm developing a media encoder because I don't like the one from Adobe at all. It's slow. I don't think it's easy to use. I don't like it at all. So I'm developing my own media encoder, which is based on another free software called FFmpeg. And I'm also working, this is for Rainbox because we're going to use all these tools. So Rainbox is my first client, and that's interesting. And I'm working also on an asset manager, which we'll call Ramses, like Rainbox Asset Manager. So Ramses will be an asset manager, so something to ease the production and to know what shot is being animating and stuff like that for movie production. This is a very big part, a very big piece of software to develop. So it's going to take a long time, but something very interesting, and it's a whole application. It's not inside After Effects. My goal for the long term would be to have my own animation software because I don't like animating in After Effects at all. I don't like it. No, it lags. I don't have to wait for previews to render my previews when I'm animating. What I like is what I have when I'm animating in 3D softwares. When you animate, you want to have your animation in real time. So I'd like to have a software like After Effects for cutout animation in 2D, but real time like 3D software. So this is some time of long-term goal. I don't know if I will be able to do this one day, but I keep this in mind for the future.
You're like a director of your, more the director than animator.
Yeah. If I could hire someone to do all of this for me, I would be happy. For now, it's difficult because the company is still young, and as it's free, we have to find some ways. We have to find some ways to be able to pay someone full time to work on this kind of stuff. But I think we will be able to do this maybe in 1 year, 2 years, but it's coming. And then I could work on my films and films of friends and just be some kind of lead developer to have someone else actually developing the tools.
Okay, and the next question is why you call Duik Basel? I know that you have a story about it, and
and this is linked to the fact that Duik is free, because to go a little while ago and some background story about Duik and why is it free. When I first developed Duik, I was not asking myself these questions. I just released Duik. It was not open source at all. It was free, but I never thought about giving the source code and sharing it. And this was not a question. It was a very small thing. And there were maybe 4 people using it, maybe 10 in France, and that was it. So I didn't ask myself these kind of questions. It took a few years for Duik to begin to be famous and to be used worldwide. It happened when I translated it in English, and at that time a lot of people began to use it. So that was the time where I asked myself, okay, what can I do with it? Am I going to sell it? Am I going to continue to share it for free? What do I have to do? And what I understood, and which is very important for me, is that as soon as my product is used by a lot of people, it is a way for me to do politics. It is a way for me to say something with it. And I wanted to ask something. I wanted to give a meaning to what I was doing. I wanted it to matter. I didn't want to do like everyone else. Sorry. If I did this without thinking about it, I would have sold it without asking myself if it was the good thing to do. And it was kind of difficult because I knew I could be rich, and I know today I could have maybe I could have bought my house in cash if I had sold Duik. So I could have been rich, and I am not. Obviously, I'm not rich at all. And so this was not an easy reflection. It was not an easy thinking. But I really wanted to use Duik and the fact that it was famous to say something with this. And my political convictions, my ideology, I put this in Duik to show the people that I don't like mercantilism, I don't like capitalism, and I wanted to show that even without being rich, I could do something without selling it, without mercantilism. I could share something for free and still earn my life and earn enough to live well. And I live well, I am happy, and that's all I need. I don't want to be rich. So I wanted to tell this to people. So that is the story quickly behind Duik and the fact that it is free. And then about Basel, it's the same kind of reasoning. It's that when we came to the 16th version, it was on Rainbox and with my friend who's called Michael, like you. And with Michael, we just think again, okay, there's this 16th version coming, and we were completely rewriting the script. It has nothing to do with it. It cannot be compared to previous versions. We write it again from scratch. So we wanted to show this by giving it a name. So it's not just a 16th version. It's not a new iteration. It's a completely new script. So we decided we wanted to give it a name. And we have the same reasoning, which was it's famous, so we can use it. We can use the name to tell something to people, to show something which matters to us. It's always this. We want this to matter. We want this to have a meaning. So we thought a lot about what we could do. We had some jokes. We had some puns, and we could do some just bad jokes with this. And we had very nice jokes, and we liked it. But we had this idea. When we decided this, it was just the time when we read about Basel Hartabil Safadi, which was a Syrian developer. And it was obvious for us we had to use his name for Duik. Because Basel, he was a developer in Syria. And in 2011, there was this uprising against the regime in Syria. And Basel was someone who showed the people how important it was to hide their online conversations using applications for chatting online and on their phones, which were protected and which protected their privacy. And he was also he was very invested in promoting free software as Duik, software, open source software and free softwares. So he was very, very invested in this kind of stuff in Syria. And he was not especially politically invested. It was not political. It was just a very simple ideology of sharing and free softwares and helping people use free software. But it was enough for him to be arrested by the regime and the government. He was arrested, he was tortured, he was sent to a military prison in Damas, and he finally disappeared. So he was arrested in 2012. He was tortured during 3 years, and in 2015, he just completely disappeared. His family never heard about it again. And only 2 years later, the regime acknowledged that he died in prison. He was 36, so it was about my age and the age of Michael. So this was a story very important for us. It was something very meaningful. So that's why we decided to call Duik Basel, just to give him a voice and give a voice to the Syrian people, because it's one of the subjects which means it matters a lot more than Duik and animating small characters in After Effects. It is very important, and we wanted to use the fame of Duik to talk about something much more important than just character animation. And it's some kind of echo of what we're doing when we do films, when we do animation and motion design. We have a voice, and this is one of the reasons why we don't want to do advertising, for example. It's because we want our voice to matter, and we want our voice to have meaning and to at least not be something we don't agree with. What we do, the films we have to work with, for us, it's very important that they have a meaning where we agree with. So this was the same reasoning behind the choice of Duik Basel. That's it.
Thank you. And what about opinions about you? About
what do they say about this?
Yes.
What do people think about all of this?
Yes.
I have most of the feedback I have is very positive, even from people selling their scripts. I talked with Adam Plouffe, the developer of Rubber Hose. We talked a lot together when he released Rubber Hose. He was afraid I would be jealous, and he was afraid I would think he was competing with Duik, selling something which could be better, or he was afraid I'd see him as a competitor, and we talked a lot about this. He chose to sell it. It's his choice. I tried to convince him to do this for free, but he didn't want just to ask for donations and everything, because sharing free software is kind of difficult, because you have always the feeling you are begging to money for people. I'm always begging. It's true. I'm always begging because I need donations to continue to share Duik, because I need to eat like everyone else. So it's hard. So I perfectly understand that he's selling, and this was our conversation. What's interesting is, from his point of view, and I agree with him, it's nice that you have different scripts, some which are free, some which are paid, because for the same needs, you have different solutions and people can choose. And actually, I like the fact that they can choose. I would prefer that they could choose between free softwares. So now they have to choose between one free software and paid software, but at least there is choice, and I think this is interesting. I also have feedback from my users, which is mainly positive, of course, because people like to don't have to pay for something. When I talk about my methods and when I beg for money, I have two kinds of feedback. There are people who perfectly understand and who give some money. And there are people who don't understand, actually. I have a lot of feedback of people just don't understanding why I'm doing this. And sometimes I have people just saying, but just sell it for a low price, but I don't understand why you don't sell it. And I always have to explain again and again why it's my ideology. It's not, the matter is not that it costs a lot of money or it's cheap. It could be cheap. I could sell it for a few cents. I could do this, but it's more the symbol behind this. I just don't want it to be a product which is sold. I want to show that we can share together something what we need, and I want the people to choose to give some money. And the thing important, and what I'm always explaining, and what the people don't always understand, is that what my point is, what is important is the choice. Is the choice of the user to give something. I want him to choose if he wants to give or if he wants to get him for free. I want him to understand that I need money, and I want him to choose how much he wants to do and if he wants to give for me. So this is why I will never sell it, not even a few cents.
And it's very very rare use in our society. I think that everything is advertised, and everybody tries to sell more, and views like you is very rare.
And our society rewards people who are able to sell something. I always use the analogy between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, which are very famous people. And this analogy with Richard Stallman and Linus Torvalds, which they are known in software amongst developers, but the general public don't know Richard Stallman and Linus Torvalds. They don't know who they are. And this is only because Bill Gates and Steve Jobs sold what they were doing. They do mainly OSs. They do Windows and Mac OS. And they are known because they sold it. Because Linus Torvalds also did an OS, Linux, but he's not as known as Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. And he's not as known as them just because he decided for this software to be free. And so he's not rich. And just because he's not rich, he's not known as well as Bill Gates. And this is very important in our society. And this what makes me sad is that we know people because they sell something. We know them as soon as they're rich and they have sold what they do. And the people who decided, like me, to do something for free and share, and the good people like Richard Stallman and Linus Torvalds are not known as much as Bill Gates. And this, I think, this is very, very sad. And this is what I'm trying to do: is to make people see that there are other ways to do stuff, and there are other nice people. And this is also why Duik is called Basel, because Basel is someone who deserves to be known more than Bill Gates, you know. So this is it, and yeah, this is very important in our society. And yeah, there are very few people who are aware about this, and this is what I'm working on.
If we tell about your Patreon, you have some people that want to support you, and of course they use Patreon and became a patrons. So it's a question about a global goal, and you already asked it. So maybe you can tell more about your patrons and what do you think about this model of communication in our world? Like when you do something for open source and some people want to support you. So
yeah. Patreon is a good solution, I found. I opened my project on Patreon just a few months ago. It took a long time for me to think about this and to be sure this was a good way to get the money I need for developing Duik. For a long time, I had only a way to donate on the website. There, the website, you can download Duik and you can click on the donate button to donate a few dollars if you want. This did not work. To be very transparent about this, we get $3,000 per year with donations. $3,000, which has to be converted in euros, so it's less in euros. And then we have to to pay taxes on this because we have to pay taxes on every donation we get. So this means maybe we got 2,000 euros per year. This is less than 1 month's salary in France. So it's not enough at all. So I had to find another way. What I like with Patreon is that it reflects the fact that developing a software is not a one-time job. It's not I develop it and then it's finished. It's continuous. You have to develop, you have to pay for the website, you have to pay for the forum, you have to support, because I do a lot of support too. It's not only the development, but I have to answer questions, because if people don't know how to use Duik, I have to answer. I think it's important to show them how to use it, because it's difficult to use Duik. So I want to be here to help them. And there are a lot of stuff like this. And of course, I have to fix the bugs. I'm developing updates. There are always updates to add new features. And this is a continuous work. So Patreon, what I like is that it reflects this as it's a monthly donation. It's a very small donation. It starts at $1, only $1. This means $12 per year. It's not much. Even in poorer countries, it's not much. And so I like this. I like this because it's a continuous work, so having donations each and every month is useful. I don't want people to give a lot, actually. My goal is to have a lot of patrons, but donating $1 or even less. I want a lot of people donating very few, just a few cents if it's possible. I would do this. My goal is this with this project, is to bring more and more people, but progressively having them donating less. And I already did that, maybe it was 2 months ago, I think. When I created the project, there was three levels of donation. There was $1, $4, and $8. And I removed the $8 level because, and it worked. I removed it to have more people, but donating less. And it worked. I have about the same money at the end of the month, but with more people donating a bit less for each one. And this is very interesting, and this is what I want. And what I like with this too is it's a good way to share what I'm doing. I try to post once a week. I don't manage to post once a week because I don't have enough time for this, because it's a long process to write an article and to share interesting things, interesting stuff on Patreon. But I try to share not only about Duik or on the development. I want to share a lot of stuff on the films I'm working on, the source files, and I'm going to share more and more. It's my goal, very regularly to build some kind of community of people. And maybe someday when there is enough people, maybe I'll try to find a way for other people to share also, and we'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm quite happy with this. I don't really want much more money with it. I just want more people donating a bit less. That's my goal for the upcoming month. I'm at about, I think it's $800 per month, something like that. I think if I'm at 800 or 1000, this kind of value I think is the right one, because it pays what I need. It pays the 20-30% of my time working on the development and sharing things on Patreon, and this is enough. And we'll see if we want to hire someone to work full-time at this time. Maybe in a year or two, we'll think again about this, because it's not enough. With Patreon and the donations, we still don't have enough money to hire someone full-time. So there are the crowdfunding campaigns too. Maybe it can be complementary. But we'll have to think again about this. It's a constantly evolving process to find how to finance free software. It's not so easy.
Thank you. Sorry. How about 3D graphics? Did you work on it nowadays, or now you work?
Yeah. Well, yes. I worked a lot with 2D animation. My studies were in 3D graphics. My first job was 3D animator, and I work on very advanced 3D animations. My graduation movie at school was a 3D movie. And yeah, as I was working, I progressively worked more with 2D animation, and maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I worked only on 2D animation. But what I like is work on both. So progressively, I started to add again 3D animation in my work. So yeah, I still continue to work on 3D animation. Recently, I have worked on a project which was very nice for a documentary, which will be aired here in France, about skeletons on all kind of animals. So it's a documentary. It's in development, so I cannot show images yet, finished videos of the documentary. But there is a lot of live action, and there will be. We have not made it again, but there will be about 15 or 20 minutes of computer graphics of realistic 3D skeletons of animals running, hunting, and even humans talking, humans dancing, but viewed as skeletons on a very sober black background, very realistic. And we made about 1 minute for testing for this movie, for this documentary, and I finished this a month ago or 2 months ago. I don't remember exactly, and this was very nice. And we try to do this kind of thing. We cannot do big 3D animation yet because we are a very small studio, and 3D animations involves more people. It's more complicated. We have to have a render farm, and it's costly. It's more it's costlier, so it's more difficult. But we try to bring more 3D animations in our project and to use Blender. We did this work on Blender to use free softwares. I think we're going to donate some money to Blender because we want to show the example. So we did this, and working with Blender was very nice. I love this software very much. I like animating in this. It was my first big project on Blender, and I like it very much. So we're trying to do more stuff like this.
I also started with Blender a long time ago. It's very, very cool. Andrew asks some questions. What do you think about goblins?
The school?
The school.
I was a teacher there. I like it very much. I teach there. I stopped because I don't have enough time, and as I don't live in Paris, it's hard for me to go teaching in Paris, and I really don't like Paris. It's too big, and there are too many people. But yeah, Goblins is a nice school. The latest years they worked mostly in 2D animation, but they're trying to do more work in 3D animation. And I think it's nice that they do both 3D and 2D animation. But it's very nice school.
And
the only thing
are you teaching rigging and or only 2D animation or what?
Yeah, it was 2D animation. I teach mainly After Effects, so it was rigged animation in After Effects. So it's some kind of a first step towards 3D animation. This is something very interesting in Duik in After Effects. It's a good way to learn to animate characters, rigged characters, but in 2D it's easier. And then when you learn how to do this in After Effects, it's easier to go to 3D animation. And this was what I did at Goblins. And I also teach compositing because I worked a lot in compositing in After Effects. So I teach this also. Yeah. The only thing with Goblins and other schools and Superfocom, the school I teach now and where I was a student, is they are very expensive. And I think in France, I don't know in other countries, but they are very nice school. They are very famous in the whole world. But what I don't like is they're very expensive for compared to the French, to what the people earn in France. It's a lot of money. And there are not enough good schools, but public and less expensive. If there was good public schools, it could even be free. There are free schools in France, a few of them, but I think there are not enough. And that's something, again, I'm thinking about because, again, I want to show we can do these things differently. And I'd like to have public animation school in France, and there are maybe one or two, and they're very small schools, and I think there is something to do there.
Like free education. In Russia we have all of government education is free, and state universities also can be free for some peoples. And what do you think about free education? So also in animation, not only in animation, but maybe the whole creative and free education.
I think it is something important because and I see this where in the school where I teach, if the school is expensive, it's not that I don't like the rich people who can buy it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that the people coming to expensive school are kind of all the same culturally. I mean, socially, they have the same ideas. They have the same culture. They do the same kind of movies in the artistic domain. But it's the same in industry, in designing, in accounting, and I think in everything, mathematics. If we want to have people thinking all differently, I think it's important in schools to have people who are different, where two people won't think the same way. I think it's very important in the education. And this cannot happen if the school is too expensive, because you have one kind of people only. And it's only in free education that you can have people from all kinds of universes. And I think this is very important. I think a country, a state has to do something to have free education in the country. In France, we have free education, but not in the animation field. We have a lot of free schools and nice schools for, I don't know, psychology, mathematics, and stuff like that, and literature. But there is no free school for animation. I think we should have this. In Belgium, there are more schools, and there are CG schools, and there are animation schools which are free, public and free. And this is a solution for French people, because Belgium is just is very near. So there are French students who go to Belgium because there are more free schools in Belgium.
So guys looking for Belgium with free animation schools, it's very interesting.
Yeah, there are in Brussels and in other smaller towns, and I like Belgium very much. Where I live, I'm just a few kilometers from the borders, from the Belgian borders, and we go in Belgium because the beer is way cheaper there.
Beer,
so yeah. We go drink in Belgium, and it's better. So they have the best beer in the world. This is true. And we go there. And yeah, Belgium is a nice country, and I like Belgians people very much. I think they are very, very nice.
Antwerp, yes, very, very nice city. I was there sometime. Yeah. Please tell us about your freelance projects. Like I thought that it's not a very correct question. So, because you are working like a studio guy, like you're the director of your own projects in your studio.
Yeah.
But a lot of people works as a freelancers, and it's very interesting to speak about how freelance work is set up in France. And
I was a freelancer before founding Rainbox. I was a freelancer for a few years, so I know this. And every motion designer in France, motion designers, maybe 80% of the motion designers are freelancers.
Yes,
there are some of them who work in companies, in advertising agencies and stuff like that. But most of them are freelancers. And in France, it's quite easy to be a freelancer because you have statuses which are very easy. We can create it's called, how is it called in France? Unipersonal. I don't know how to translate this, but so a company with one person. And we can create this kind of company very quickly on the internet. It's just a web page, and you have just to fill a form and send it, and it's done. And as long as you don't earn more than 30,000 euros per year, it's very easy. You just have to do some invoices. You keep your invoices, and it's all the administrative tasks you have to do. Everything is automated. And what you get, about 25% are taxes, and you keep the 75 remaining percent for yourself. It's very easy. So as long as you don't earn too much money, it's easy. But actually, there is some kind of step. And when you go above, even by €1, you go into something which is far more difficult, a lot of administrative tasks and all very nasty stuff. And actually, France is very known for administration and the whole papers we have to do each month. It's horrible, really. At Rainbox, we are two, and we pay, maybe it costs a lot of, we pay a guy who works only on this. We pay 3,000 euros each year to have one guy working 15 days in a year to do all our papers, because it's too hard. It's very nasty. And freelancers have this when they earn a bit too much. And the limit is not very high because when you're a freelancer, you have to buy computer, you have to buy your licenses for softwares, even if, and if you do 3D, you have more expenses to do. So you have to get a little more money, and this limit of 30,000 euros is not enough. So it's getting more difficult just after this. But all people do this. The thing is also is that with this simplified status behind 30,000 euros per year, you cannot hire someone. You have to work all alone. This is not a status where you can hire something to work with you, and this is difficult also. This is the reason why I founded Rainbox. One of the reasons why I decided to found Rainbox is that I wanted to develop what I was doing, and I had to hire people. So I had to found a real company, something more stable and more complex. So this is how it works.
And do you have a lot of work in December and before the New Year's?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. In France, people don't work in August. July and August, there's nothing. You don't have any work. You can go on holiday everywhere you want. And in December, you have big companies who wants to finish their budget. They have the budget for the year. They notice they have still some money to spend, and they call you, I want a movie for 2 weeks. And then you have to do this. So there is a lot of work, and it's the same with schools and teaching. So everything there is, and development too. We do some, not much, but a few developments tools private for some companies which need very specific tools in After Effects, and all of them always want them in November and December. It's a pain. Each and every year the same. So yeah, December we work a lot, a whole lot. Yeah.
Yeah, the same in Russia. We have the same situation. So
yeah,
all over the world, I think.
Yeah, and actually in France, what's stupid and what I noticed, what I discovered when I founded Rainbox, is that in France a company can choose how her finance when her yearly finance will be closed. It's not necessarily the 31st of December. It can be in July, and that's what we did. Our year at Rainbox is from June to July. So it's completely stupid, and we do this because our the people who do the accounting is cheaper, because it's more cheap because it's in June, and in June he doesn't have any work to do, so he can work for us more easily. So yeah, this is completely stupid. I don't understand it at all. You can choose when you want to end your year. So
yes, it's very smart. The next question also about freelancers, about some legal work. So in Russia, I think about, I don't know, Andrew, about 50% of freelancers work like gray workers, like illegal or don't pay taxes. So they work for Europe, and then they have some credit cards or something like Payoneer, and the government didn't see that they sell something abroad.
Yeah. In France, it's not the case. I think maybe it's harder here to hide money. I don't know, but every motion designer is do pay them their taxes and everything. There's no gray or dark work in France. I don't know.
It's very nice.
A little bit, yeah. Beginners sometime, or students. Of course, all students do work black work or gray work, something in between. Students, because it's difficult when you're a student to have a real freelancer work. and some beginners, but most of them very quickly began to pay their taxes. Yeah, because maybe it's difficult. I don't know. I don't really know why. And the taxes are not so. As I said, it's maximum 25% of what you earn in France. And it's not much. I mean, when you're a motion designer in France, your clients are companies, and they have the budget to pay motion designers. A motion designer in France do ask for about 300 euros per day, and they give about 25% of this in taxes. So they get 250 euros per day of work. And companies do pay this. It's the average, I think. And it works. In France, it works. You don't have to do this to do some gray work, to find work. It's you can do it. And they do earn their life quite well. All the motion designers I know who pay taxes still have a comfortable life. They can buy the house, they have their car, and they live quite well. They can go on holidays in the States, and they live quite well and better than the average people in France. I think it's a job where you earn more money than other jobs in France. So there's no gray work.
I think it's all about animation stuff, and we want to talk about some lifestyle stuff. So also in November and December, we are working very hard and working more than 8 hours a day. So how many working hours a day do you have? So how did you manage your work? And not only animation, because I know if you have only one co-founder in your company, so you need to handle other stuff, not only animation.
Yeah, there's a lot of administrative tasks too. So there are a lot of stuff. It's getting better as now we are 4 in the company, but as I'm one of the 2 co-founders, I still have more work these days. But it's because it's the beginning of December. I work 50 to 60 hours per week. So that's way too much. After a week of 60 hours, I'm just too tired. It's very hard. But I do hope this will change in a few weeks. This weekend, for example, I work Saturday and Sunday too. So a normal day in the week is 9 or 10 hours. And I do work maybe 7 hours on Saturday, and this week I worked again 5-6 hours on Sunday. But this is way too much. My wife doesn't like it at all. And it varies. But the legal week in France is 35 hours per week. But I've never done this. I did this when I was an employee in a company some years ago. But since I founded Rainbox, I never did this. It's more like maybe 45 hours a week, 45 hours is 9 hours per day and 5 days per week. This is the average, I think. But I do hope this will change as the company gets bigger. We can do this. We can go to 40 hours a week. That's my goal, 40 hours a week. That would be nice, and it would mean 8 hours per day, and I would be fine with this. So this is my goal.
And what do you do in your spare time, not only in the end of the year?
So in my spare time, I watch a lot of movies. Actually, I like to go to the cinema, watch movies. I bought a nice video projector recently, a very big screen, and I like this very much. But I like to travel, and when I mean travel, it's not always traveling at the other side of the world. I do go hiking, but even in my region, even a few kilometers from home, I discovered that you could go hiking in the fields, in the country, and I like this very much. And my wife, we do this We go with our bicycles or we go hiking and just walk. Sometimes a whole Sunday, if we can do no work at all, we can go in the morning till the evening and work 30 kilometers. And I like this kind of stuff very much. Actually, after having spent so much time on the screen, either I watch a movie on a screen again, or I get completely sick with screens and I go into nature. And I can go a few days with my tent in nature and just live in the nature. Mm-hmm. The last time I did this, I went for 25 days in the Alps alone with a tarp. It was not a tent, a tarp, which is just a small shelter. Mm-hmm. And I went for 25 days alone in the nature after a big year of working. This was 2 years ago. So completely away, without phone, without anything. And this is what I like the most in the world.
Yeah, just realize very nice and fun stuff that in Russia we have one motion designer and script writer and own company founder in motion graphics, and he has scripts on iscripts.com. There's the script called GiveGun.
And, yeah, I know this.
Yeah, you know this is Nix K, his nickname. And I just realized that he also script writer for After Effects. He also know Dan Eberts, and he also like hiking very much with his wife.
This is
very fun. Yeah. Yes.
I think when we are a bit extreme in our work and we work a lot and we spend so much time on the computer, we are a bit extreme on holidays too. And this is my case. I really like to go into nature. Most of the time it's mountains, because it's in mountains that where I can find places where there is nobody. And I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to see other humans. There are sometimes I hate other people and I hate humans. And this is the reason why I go into the mountains. It's just to see only animals. And it's a bit extreme, but I think it's some kind of balance between too much work. You have to do 2 holidays which are a bit crazy like this.
Yeah, I like traveling too much too. I think it's about an hour that we talk.
Yeah.
And I think it's need to be end. So I have some final questions and to continue your thoughts about traveling and about sports and hiking. We often asks our guests about health, because all of us spend a lot of time at the computer, at the screen, and is hiking helps you, or you do some exercises after work, or how you do your sports?
It's funny that you're asking this question, because I talked about this with my students today. I was teaching at Supafocom today, and I talked about them with this. They are the last year students, and in the last year they have to make their own movie. So it takes a lot of time, and they work all day and the weekends at the school. And I was telling them that I often see maybe half of them getting fat the last year. And I do really see them taking 10 or 20 kilograms. Some of them really took last year 20 kilograms in a year and maybe more. So I do see them getting fat. And so I was talking about this, and I was saying to them, you have to do some sport or to find some way to keep in good shape, even if it's just 1 year. So I try to do the same. Actually, I don't. What saves me is that I don't like sport. Don't really. I did a lot of sport when I was young. I like to swim, and I was a good swimmer. I won some competitions in France and stuff like that. But this is finished, and I don't like this anymore. But what saves me is that I don't have any car. I don't even have my driving license. So everywhere I go with my bicycle. Even when I take a train, I take my bicycle with me. And I try to not take metros and buses. I don't like this. I don't like too many people, as I said a lot of times. As I don't like people, I don't like to be around a lot of people. I do use my bike. I prefer this to metro and buses and stuff like that. So this is my exercise. Everywhere I go, I always use my bicycle, and I like this very much because it's what's keeping me in quite good shape. My problem is I like very much beers and cheese, so it's getting hard.
Yeah, of course, in Belgium.
Yeah, that's it. So I mostly my wife is Colombian and she drinks a lot of rum because they have awesome rums in Colombia. You know, there are rums so good you cannot resist the urge to drink rum at least once a week. So so yeah, biking is the thing that saves my life. I think without my bicycle, I would die very young.
Thank you. So I think it was a very, very good conversation. Thank you for this.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for this because this is what I like to do, and this is the very good side of Duik is this kind of conversations with people. I like this very much. I like meeting people everywhere, even if it's just a video conference. It's very nice. This is. I was talking about money and the need to earn my life. I never regret to have Duik free, even if it's hard to find money to do this. Because as it's free, I met a lot of people interested in what I do. And I met my wife like this. I went into Colombia thanks to Duik because I was invited there. And this is where I met my wife in Bogota. I would have never imagined a few years ago that I would meet someone in Colombia. I had never imagined I could go to Colombia. So that's it. So thank you for the community. Thank you for trying for reaching me, for talking with me. This is what I like very much.
Well, so maybe you have your wishes to our subscribers or some Russian motion design, and not only motion design, maybe animators community. Or I think that a lot of people will see this interview with you, not only in Russian, I think. And because I think we will do two versions in Russian and in English.
Yeah.
So maybe you have some words to say, some way of your thinking to subscribers and all of people that supports you, that use your products, and all of the animators that know you.
It's nice that they can see me. What I want to say is, all I said is something I have written already. We can gather pieces of what I have said. I'm really happy of this opportunity to actually say it out loud. I did some conferences in French, but it's only French, and it's only for French people who already know me. So I'm very happy to be able to speak to the whole community in the whole world. And if I have one thing to say is what I just said, thank you to the community, because the feedback I got, the people I met, everything is very, very nice for me. And people do thank me for Duik and everything, but they don't have to thank me. I did Duik for myself. The origin of Duik was I didn't do it for sharing it. Sharing is some kind of side effect. I did this because I needed it. Of course, it evolved, but it evolved thanks to you, the community. I'm talking to the whole community. Duik won't be what it is without the support of people, both financial, of course, but moral support, but people reaching me to ask questions or just to share or sending me their films. That is also something I can say to everyone. I don't want all of you to donate and to support me and everything, but what I want you to do and what you can do, even if you don't have any money, is to send me what you do with Duik. And this is what I want most. I want to see your films, because the main goal of Duik is helping people make good films I want to see, films I want to share with people. And so don't be afraid to send me what you're doing, even if it's your first animation and it's not good because you're still working. It's always nice to have some feedback from people from everywhere in the world. I especially like this is people reaching me. Sometimes I have messages from people who say, it's very hard for me to speak English, so I'm just using Google Translate and speaking this with my own language. And I have messages from Chinese people, from Africa, from everywhere. And I can see that it is a Google Translate, but this is what I like, is people from everywhere just trying anyway to share with me what they have done with Duik. And this is what makes me want to continue this, even if I don't make money with this, even if it's difficult sometimes, even if I work a lot. I do this because I love the feedback I get from you, the community.
Ребята, не торопитесь выключать видео, потому что я бы хотел поблагодарить наших патронов, кто был и кто остается с нами, потому что без них этого интервью бы вообще не было. Так что список появится где-то здесь или как получится. В общем, спасибо им большое, и если что, присоединяйтесь к нам. С вами был CGMGZN и ребята, и Duduf.